G'day folks. Now more than ever it is very, very important that we practice catch and release trout fishing when we are fishing in these trout streams. Yet they're going mad! Finally! Rightio folks, the reason I'm making this video is because our trout conditions here in Victoria, in my opinion, are becoming more and more marginal every year. In other words, global warming, which a lot of people don't like to talk about and a lot of people don't believe in. Personally, I see the results every day and it is real. Things are warming up. Whether it's because of being part of a natural cycle or whether it's because of carbon emissions, ozone layers or whatever, I don't know. I'm not a scientist and I don't want to speculate, and I'm not going to buy into any arguments regarding why things are warming up. But one thing I do know is that things are warming up. More and more frequently we are getting below average rainfall. That's happening most years. Occasionally we get average or above, but it's not very often. So we're getting less rain, warmer temperatures. Streams that I used to catch trout in back in the 1980s now dry up just about every summer. In fact, there's one stream in particular, and I'll name this stream because there's no point fishing it. It's called the Middle Creek down at Greta. I used to catch trout in the Middle Creek all the way down to its junction with the 15-mile creek. I'd walk down the Middle Creek to the junction. While I was there, I'd fish the 15-mile and catch some really nice trout, and lots of them. And then when I was finished, I'd fish my way back up the Middle Creek to the road, back to the car. That was back when I first got my licence in the early 1990s, so only 25 years ago. Now the Middle Creek dries up just about every summer. What used to be 12 months of the year great trout fishing now dries up every summer. It looks great now, it's got spring water flowing down it, but there's no trout in it because it's going to dry up in a few months' time. The 15-mile creek has not had trout down that low for many years. In fact, not only are they not down that low, but they're probably not within a 10-kilometre stretch of there, because as everything has warmed up, the section of water where the trout live has gotten smaller and smaller, to the point now where they're really only up in the headwaters, up in the bush, above the farms, and even then they're not thick in numbers like they used to be. And that's not just this 15-mile creek or this area, that's the whole region, the whole northeast Victoria, and no doubt the rest of the state. Now trout these days get stocked into lakes only, with a couple of exceptions. There's a few trout that go into the Goulburn River, I believe, each year. Some of the other streams in the region get a few trout stocked into them, only a handful, but it's just enough to replenish fishing pressure. But that's not many. Most of these streams rely solely on natural recruitment, fish spawning. So if I go out now, catch a nice big trout, break its neck and take it home, that's not going to spawn in the autumn, which means that's not going to have a chance to restock this waterway. Now fish stocking isn't the be-all end-all, because why would you stock trout into the Middle Creek when it's only going to dry up in a few months? Why would you stock trout down into the lower reaches of 15 Mile where it's going to get too warm and low in oxygen? The conditions are crap. They're not suitable for trout. So it used to be a great fishery, but even if you stock it now, it's still not going to be a good fishery, because the trout habitat is marginal and it's getting smaller. And why that's happening, the number of people fishing is getting greater. So we've got more and more people fishing on less and less water, if that makes sense, which means we've got more person per stretch of water than what we've ever had before, which is why it's really, really important that we practice catch and release when we're fishing for trout in these streams and the rivers. Now, I'm not here to browbeat my ideals on catch and release, but I highly suggest that if you want to keep a feed of trout, and there's nothing wrong with that, go to the Eildon Pondage or Lake Eildon or even the Goulburn River, which gets stocked, and just keep one or two. Plenty of waterways get stocked with trout that can be kept. If you like a feed of fresh fish, me personally, if I want to feed a fresh fish, I'll go and chase a yellow belly at Lake Nillacuti. I've got no qualms in keeping my 5 a day because it gets stocked. And because it gets stocked, that makes it sustainable. Lake Hume, if I go up there and catch some nice yellow belly, I will keep them. Because it gets stocked, the numbers get replenished, that makes it sustainable. And we know they're going to be stocked in years to come. But these trout streams, they don't get stocked. They're relying solely on natural recruitment. And that's why it's important that we practice catch and release in the trout streams. And if we want to keep a feed of fish, we go and find a stocked waterway, a bigger lake, even Lake Dartmouth, I think doesn't get stocked, but it's such a big area in the middle of Whoop Whoop that it's very, very self-sustaining, and it's a great fishery, and it's a great place to keep a feed of fish. There's no problems keeping a feed of fish there. Choose wisely where you want to keep your fish, and for the love of God, if you want to make sure that there is great trout fishing for your kids and your grandkids after that in years to come, then we need to preserve the trout fisheries that we have, and the very best way to start preserving that is by practicing catch and release. After that, we can work on habitat restoration, creating deeper holes, planting riparian vegetation on the banks of the creeks to shade the water, and etc. But for now, catch and release is the most important thing that we can do if we really are genuinely concerned with looking after the well-being of our trout fisheries.